high atop the pastoral center of the Diocese of Camden, you're listening to Talking Catholic.
Hello and happy Advent. Welcome back to Talking Catholic. It's Kari Janisse here, and I am once again in this wonderful season of Advent with my good friend Mike Walsh.
Hi, Kari. How are you?
I'm great. I'm so glad to be here with you.
I like that we're talking about Advent. We're actually recording this a little early, so it's not actually Advent yet, but this is coming out. Advent will be all of 1 day old when this comes out. And,
happy birthday or happy new church calendar, I should say, not happy
that's
birthday.
Right. Happy new liturgical calendar to all the Catholics listening. I always love that.
I was just going through the church calendar in my RCIT class, and we were going through the different seasons because I'm like, we're going to start a new liturgical church calendar. And then we got to Pentecost, and and I was like, kind of just harping on how it was the birthday of the church. And that's what I had in my mind. So I almost said happy birthday, but happy new church calendar, which is always exciting to kind of start off this year. And actually, I'm going to admit here on the podcast that I am like jumping into the whole Christmas season / Advent season early. And I felt like it's been already alive and well. Like my Advent wreath is out, my Christmas decorations are up, my nativity set is out, and my son keeps saying, it's Thanksgiving and Christmas. So that's where my mind has been for the last week already. So I'm ready for it.
You're not alone. It seems this year more than most. I know a lot of people who are jumping way past Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
That's in the rearview mirror already. Mm-hmm. I know when people are listening to this, it'll literally be in the rearview mirror. But for the last several weeks,
I know,
since almost Halloween,
they've
been doing it.
And it comes from everywhere else, the stores and everything. But like, I don't know. I've never been one for Christmas music before, anything Christmas before Thanksgiving. And this year I've broken every rule and gotten like really excited about it though.
You know what?
I like Thanksgiving too.
I think people are so desperate for joy and the joy that Christmas always brings that they're throwing caution to the wind and they're just diving in head first.
Yeah.
Which I absolutely can appreciate because I'm the associate publisher of the Catholic Star Herald, the director of communications for the Diocese of Camden. And I was in a number of meetings in the last week about, sort of planning for 2022. And one of the things I told everybody is my goal this year and for 2022 is to spread joy constantly. I want articles that are joyous. And not saying we're going to, avoid the other stuff, but I really want to put an emphasis on joy and appreciation and good news and coming together and community and all the things that I feel like fell to the wayside during the pandemic, where we were kind of kept apart. And I think that is my way. I have not hung any Christmas decorations. I have not listened to any Christmas music. I haven't done any of that stuff. But I absolutely get the psychology of wanting to feel that. The joyousness that comes from Christmas. Of course, as you and I know, as this is coming out in Advent, that the Advent season isn't the beginning of the Advent season isn't necessarily about joyousness. It's actually about death. It's about preparation for
and the second coming.
Which if you listen to any of our past podcasts about Advent, I think we had, was it last year?
Father Michael Goyette was on last year,
and before that it was
Father Cadmus Mazzarella, a.k.a. Father Maz. Yeah.
And before that, we have had actually several. I'm trying to think of how many. We've had at least 3 episodes on it. And the one thing that we're reminded of every single time we have people on is that, you have to, those first 2 weeks are for looking inwardly and figuring out, what you need to rectify in your own spiritual life to help bring you closer to God, so that in the second 2 weeks of Advent, you can then become really focusing on, heaven and Christ coming to earth, that little baby Jesus.
Pink, aka rose candle, always is that reminder.
That's the trigger.
Change it up. And, great little spiritual tools to just prepare, really seek out those confession schedules. Many churches have extra confessions during the Advent season. Seek them out. A lot of churches do an Advent mission. I know we're doing a scripture and song evening here at Our Lady of Peace in Williamstown.
When is that?
That's going to be on Friday, December 10th at 7 p.m. put on by our choir and our new pastor, Father Sanjay Davis, who's going to be doing the scripture and reflection. It's going to be a beautiful evening. It'll also be live streamed on Our Lady of Peace Parish's Facebook page. It's Our Lady of Peace Parish, Williamstown Facebook page. So, yes, in case there's another one out there. And, I think just seek out these extra things that are all going to help prepare your soul, prepare your heart, prepare each of you for that second coming, whether it be your own personal death or when Jesus comes again. And then also to kind of prepare ourselves for the birth of Christ, because we can lose so much of that focus in the day in and day out. And it is so much extra. That's why part of me didn't mind putting the decorations up early. One, because I'm going to be away next upcoming weekend, which I'll be gone already by that point. I'll be back. But, I usually like to do it after Thanksgiving, but it's fine. But I didn't mind it because I was like, you know what? I'm ready to start getting into this mode of preparing and getting excited about it. And, Mike, when we work for the church, we're always like 3-4 weeks out what we're planning.
Yeah.
Like you just talked about 2022. That's about a month and a half out. We're always a little bit ahead. So, I've been a little bit ahead. I mean, I ordered the Advent wreath of rings for the youth group back in August because I was like, I want to make sure I get them, So they've been sitting in my office for a couple months and we're ready to, they'll have been broken out by then and ready to go for the youth to be able to make fresh Advent wreaths with fresh greens, which is exciting. I
always love that. I encourage anyone to follow Kari's youth group social media accounts. Can you remember?
OLOPP. That stands for Our Lady of Peace Parish. So OLOPP Youth Group.
And on Instagram and Facebook in particular, but certainly on Instagram, your youth groups do more. I was talking to my mother. I was on the phone with my mother as I was driving over here, and she goes, "Oh, you doing the podcast?" I said, "Yeah." She's like, "Are you doing it with that youth group lady who never stops working?" And I was like, "Mom, I'm going to tell her you called her the youth group lady." And
the youth
yes,
group lady. Oh, Mike's mom. Thank you. See, I don't know her name either. Mike's
Joanne.
mom, Joanne. Thank you, Joanne. Little shout out to you.
She was. So anyway, I was actually looking at your youth group stuff over the course of the last week, and I'm amazed at how much stuff is going on. And I love seeing the joyousness in all the kids' faces. And did you have a musician last week?
Yes, it was so cool. One of our parishioners, his name is, he goes by Beetle Bob, if you ever see him performing, but Beetle Bob Liss, he, amazing story of conversion and coming back to the faith after a near-death experience and about 46 years being away from the church. And he came back after that experience, and he is on fire. And he also has this great talent of singing. So he wrote a song about his whole experience that came to him. And then he also does a lot of covers. So he's a big Beatles fan, but he did some more recent things. He did a great job, and the kids loved it. We had a little sing-alongs this week, Caroline. It was great. I always say I put people on the circuit. So they start speaking at one of the groups, and I'm like, oh, you're going to come to the high school group too, and we'll put you at the young adult group. And he did the whole circuit, and he took requests to come back again in January, and he's going to learn some new songs. Like one of the kids is like, can you play Nirvana? Oh man, we're pushing it here. But he's like, well, I like the 60s and 70s kind of music. I'm like, yeah, that's fine. You can stick with that.
I'm actually impressed that your youth group, any of your youth group people would know Nirvana, because I got news for you. That's now considered classic rock.
Listen, some of these kids, they're into the 90s 90s
really
alternative music. It's really cool because that's what I grew up with. So sure. I get excited over. I'm like, yeah, Nirvana. But
that's so funny.
Yeah, we you know what? It's always great, and I share this on my YouTube series, Youth Ministry Insights. Like, if you have these people in your parish that have these stories, these talents, I mean, these are the kids, or these are the, parishioners that people, the youth and the young adults that are part of your ministries are going to see at Mass on Sundays. Like, you'll see Beetle Bob teaching religious ed on Thursday nights. You'll see him at the 10:30 Mass on Sunday singing in the choir. This is your community. So to share their stories, you don't have to look too far. You don't have to give them a stipend. You don't have to, a thank you card is enough for these people. And it's such a great, they're gems. They're gems to share their stories. So I try to find them when I see them around the parish. I hear their stories. I'm like, please come in and be a part of our ministry, which is kind of what happened with our speaker today. Actually.
Yeah, it's funny.
Our guest, I should say.
Our guest today kind of wraps up, nicely sort of condenses everything that you and I just talked about in terms of sort of getting our minds right. Well, certainly during Advent, but certainly all year round.
Anytime, yeah.
But he's someone who has a a special connection to a certain kind of prayer style, and we wanted to have him on. There might be people who I certainly was not aware of this kind of prayer before you brought the concept of doing this in the podcast. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of it either. It's called Taizé Prayer, and I was approached by a friend at Daily Mass. He was a Daily Mass goer. I tried to go myself several times throughout the week, and we've seen each other in Mass, but afterwards had a conversation about it. And I said, and he asked about coming into our ministries to share this prayer. So his name is Josemon Abraham, and he's been part of our ministries here at Our Lady of Peace in a special way, sharing the Taizé Prayer. So Josemon, welcome to the podcast. Good to have you with us.
Thank you, Kari. Thank you, Mike.
So can you just tell us a little bit about maybe how you got involved, exposed to this type of prayer and a little background on it?
Sure, yeah. So I grew up in India, and I came to the United States in 97. So back in India, I grew up as part of a youth movement called the Jesus Youth. And, from that Jesus Youth movement, people were invited to Taize and go there and stay there a couple of months and experience their community life and prayer style.
So it's the name of a city, actually.
It's a village, actually.
A village.
So Taize is actually a name of a tiny village near the Burgundy, Cluny area, southeast France, I would think. And it's a remote place, kind of. And it's very beautiful, when I went there. And if I can maybe speak about the origins of the community and, this particular style of, we call it Taizé Prayer, but it's basically because of the village and the community. It's called a Taize community. It began sort of in 1940, and Brother Roger, he's a kind of a son of a Protestant pastor, but from early on, in his youth, he has this intuition when he saw, he witnessed the part of First World War, Second World War, and then he saw Christians are fighting between amongst them, and that torn his heart. And he was always thinking that, there should be a way, why Christians are fighting, there should be a way that we live together. Even though our faith is different, Reformation, Catholic, Orthodox, whatever that is. So, God gave him that intuition, and then he grew up with it. And at age 25, after his theological studies, he decided that I should pursue that. And then he's from Switzerland, and then he traveled to France looking for a place. And then there's a long story, we don't have much time to cover all that, but he ended up in this Taize village, which is a remote. There is no proper road, no running water. And he wanted to stay close to a place where there is also some suffering. So this Taize village was 2 miles away from the demarcation line. The part of France was occupied by the Nazi, the other part was not. So he was 2 miles closer to this demarcation line, and then he was visiting several places, and he found one place where there was an old lady. And, when he was about to leave, she said, "Stay here. We are alone and lonely, and the winter is long and cold." And those sort of stuck with him, and then he decided to buy that house from her. And then he came there in the summer of 1940. So he's by himself. So his intuition was to stay close to where there's suffering, and in this little house, he would live alone, and then would when refugees, people escape from this Nazi, and they come and they give refugees and take care of them for a day or not, with whatever he has, and then they go to the free side of Switzerland or somewhere else. So that was very risky at that time, and eventually the Gestapo found out that he was doing it, but he has some connections, his uncles or somebody in the police, and so they warned him, and then 1942 he had to sort of go back, otherwise he would have been arrested by the Gestapo. So 2 years he was by himself, praying and also welcoming the refugees from this Nazi occupation. and very poor. There was no running water. I said no electricity, so he would catch like snails from the field, and nettles soup, and very simple living. So from the day one, he had to sort of find food for himself and for also the people who were coming. So that's how it began, and then he went back to Geneva, right, in 1942. And then he could only come back in 1944. By that time, he found some of the initial brothers who was going to join him. So initially, him and maybe 6 others, and they started to live together. And the idea is to live a parable of communion. That's what they call, because he strongly believed that the church is a communion, the mystical body of Christ, and where there is reconciliation and peace, and people go together, live together. So his intuition was to show a model, live in a community where this is possible, even though the faith is somewhat, denomination is different, theological explanations are different, but we can still live under a roof. We can pray together. And so they started with 7 of them, and eventually they committed their lives, a life of celibacy, and to a common life. That's their vocation. And then after the war was over, and then all of a sudden, young people just started to show up from like nowhere. Even today, they cannot explain why. So initially, the brothers wanted to chase them away because he said, we want to live a monastic life. We are monks. We don't want any disturbance. But the young people keep coming, and then they discerned that that's their vocation. In between they found other place for the young people, all different stories. But in a shortcut, because an increasing number of the young people were coming, and they wanted to welcome them, and then eventually they built a somewhat large church. It's called a Church of Reconciliation. 8,000 people can sit in that church. It's a simple church. Everybody sit on the floor, carpeted floor. And but when I was there, every year, tens of thousands of young people come there every week. From all different parts of Europe, Eastern Europe, Western Europe, also from different parts of country and all on the world, different continents. I met people from many continents when I was there, many countries, and so they come together. And what they really attract the young people is the life of the brothers. It's very simple, and on the hill, the young people participate in the brothers' activities. There is 3 times prayer a day, and that's what the Taizé Prayer is: 3 times, morning, midday, and in the evening. And the prayer consists of very simple, a few songs, very chants, a psalm, a Bible reading, a long time of silence, intercessions, pretty much it, half an hour, pretty much like that. But in Taize, because the young people meet all different people from other parts of the world, and all of a sudden, when they come together, there are no inhibitions. The discussions start, and they exchange their faith, their ideas, their thoughts without any inhibitions. So it's sort of living the ecumenism in one way, without any proper definitions, documentation, support, anything. They're just living that ecumenism there. That's his unity in the unity of the churches. That's what he wanted to achieve in his lifetime. So in the morning there is prayer, and then afterwards one of the brothers will give Bible reflections to the young people, and by the midday, and there is another prayer. After the prayer, there is lunch, and then in the afternoon, everybody helps the brothers to clean up the place and get it ready, And in the evening, there is another prayer. So evening time is very particular because I could see when I was there. I was there 2 times. The first time I stayed there for 2 months, and second time,
oh my heavens,
6 months.
How old were you the first time you went?
I would say, well, it was in 92, so I would say that was when I was 22, 22.
So you were not married,
No,
just
no.
a young person at that time seeking.
24, actually 24, yeah. Not married, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then later?
Later in 95.
Okay, so not too long after you returned.
Yeah, it's soon after that I got married, yeah. Yeah. And so I could see after the evening prayer, the singing will continue, and the young people will just stay in the church for hours and hours, even past midnight.
Wow.
The church full of people are all in the church and singing and praying, and it was very heart-touching to see that experience.
Was it quiet or was it raucous? Was it
no, it's quiet.
Quiet?
Just only chanting these songs, Taize songs, no other songs, nothing like that, no partying, nothing like that in the church. It's praying. And so when I talk about evening prayer, all Fridays we have the prayer around the cross. That's what we do here in the church during the Lent time, prayer around the cross. They took that from one of the Eastern traditions. So what they have a particular cross called the Taizé cross, and we'll just take it from the podium and put it on the floor on a stool. And the idea is that the risen Christ is still accompanying us. He is also organized with our sufferings. He is with us, and so we can confidently entrust our sufferings and sufferings of the world, your dear ones, near ones, to Him. So people just walk up to the cross, put their forehead on the cross, stay there for a few minutes, or time allows, they can stay for a longer time, entrusting all their cares and worries and to Christ, the risen Christ, who is alive but still suffering along with us, and sort of praying in communion with the risen Christ. So that's Friday, and that goes very late into the night. The prayer ends by half an hour, but then young people stay.
Just keeps going.
And Saturday, Eastern tradition is also, I think our tradition is Saturday evening is Easter Vigil. So it's full of joy. So during the time of prayer, everyone will light a candle, and after the gospel reading, and then sing songs of joy and jubilation. And Sunday morning, there is Eucharist, and after the Eucharist, young people leave for their parishes.
So like a Catholic Mass with the Eucharist?
Yes. So there's a special permission from the Lyon's Archbishop that was several years back, because of he understood what this community is about. When I said the community, I didn't say about right now there are more than 100 friars. They call friars or brothers in the community. They are from, I think, 30 different countries, the Catholic background, Orthodox, Protestant, different backgrounds. But they take a vow of celibacy and common life.
Wow. So the ones that are Catholic then receive then? No,
all the brothers can receive the Holy Communion, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, because they have that special permission from the Lyon's Archbishop. Brother Roger himself received the Holy Communion at the funeral of John Paul II, and
oh wow,
the friar, the prior of Taize is received in Vatican, private audience by the Pope every year. A very close relationship with the Catholic Church. Actually, the Brother Roger, who is the founder of the community, was a close friend of Saint John, Pope 23rd, John 23rd.
Wow.
And that Pope is very instrumental to him in the formation of the community. Actually, an Asian bishop, Bishop Thomas Menamparambul, he was also helping them, in the formation of the community and all different things. So very close ties with the Catholic Church. And so during this 1 week stay, what the young people do is simply participate in 3 times prayer, morning Bible reflection, and after Bible reflection, the people just gather in groups and they share and discuss, and then afternoon helping out with the work. When in between, a lot of informal discussions are happening. And what they call is this, Brothers of Taize always say, we are not spiritual masters. We are not masters of anything. We don't want to call, like, we can give you advice or direction, anything like that, but accompanying you in your search for the truth. Mm-hmm. So in that accompanying, so the youth don't feel intimidated or forced to do anything. They are there to listen. Every evening prayer, after the prayer, some of the brothers stay in the church, and young people can walk up to them and then confide to them their struggles, whatever. So in that search, they are discovering something of the gospel. And Brother Roger always say that, don't delay. Whatever little that you understand about the gospel, live it. Mm-hmm. Don't delay. Mm-hmm. And they don't, in this, all they're trying to do then help the young people to find a meaning for their life. And so in this search, they are accompanying them. And also, when they find some meaning, right, they also encourage them to take up some responsibilities. Don't just discover something and go home and kick back and relax. No, you take up some responsibilities, and they don't encourage. They don't even form a movement around Taizé. They always say, "Go back to your parish and live your faith there." Mm-hmm. But take up some solid commitments, some responsibilities that you can, visiting the sick or helping out with the food campaign, whatever that may be, simple things. So taking up a commitment is very important, and after striving to follow the gospel.
So what was yours when you were in your 20s and you got that charge to go back to your parish? What was it for you?
Yeah. So, as I said, I was part of this Jesus Youth movement. So I went back. Even in India, I was organizing many Taizé prayers for the youth. Mm-hmm. I traveled many cities in my state, mm-hmm. and I don't think I participated in anything particularly on a human solidarity level. Other than that, I take up this responsibility in one way to share this prayer experience with the young people, and they all loved it always. Yeah. That's
how I got to know you, because you had approached me. So I was saying earlier, these parishioners all around that have these wonderful stories or things that they can bring to your ministries or other ministries. Even this was not particularly for youth; mm-hmm. It could be for adults. And we've done it for many times in our parish for the adults. But you brought it to the young adult group many years ago, and it was new for me. Mm-hmm. I remember you said, bring a mat, right? Bring a mat. And I was like, what is going on? What are we doing? And it's this beautiful, elaborate backdrop or background, if you will, of candles and drapery and a crucifix. I believe it was the Franciscan crucifix that you brought, or something similar. Yeah. It looked to me as. So can you explain a little bit about when you bring it? So when you brought it to your youth and when you brought it here to our parish, to my young adult group, and now the parish, what is it like from start to finish?
Sure. Yeah. So one important thing in Taizé is to welcome. So Taizé is an international community. People from all around the world come there, from different faith backgrounds come there, mm-hmm. and all feel welcome. So during the time of prayer, say for example, if you talk about the chants, they are in many languages: Spanish, Italian, Portuguese, Chinese, English, German, French, whichever. So during the prayer, you're most guaranteed that you will hear at least one or two sentences that is from your language. That is kind of, it's there. Also in the church are several icons. And this particular cross, everyone says there is St. Franciscan cross. It looks like it, but it was drawn by one of the brothers of Taizé. Okay. And you can see that's a little darker Jesus. Christ the poor, maybe you can say that, but it's a very simple way of Franciscan cross, but he drew it, and that attracted many people. So preparation is that we do some orange or some backdrop, some flowers or some plants. We don't do it here with the plants and flowers, but back in India we do those kind of backdrops with the cross, and then icon of Mary and Child and some other icons from the traditions. The idea is that icons are the windows to the gospel realities. They just, by just looking at it, contemplating it, it's a window that opens your eyes, your heart, to a reality that's kind of beyond yourself. And so we set it up, with icons and some candles, glass candles and dim light. So the whole ambience is kind of very peaceful.
Yes.
The minute you walk in, you want to pray. So that's how, even at the church of that big church, it's dim light during the time of prayer, and then everyone feel welcome with the songs, with the way it is set up. And so with this particular prayer style, let me maybe walk through that a little bit. We begin with usually an Alleluia or a praise song, couple of songs like that, and then some verses from selected psalms. We sing it, psalms, and that's usually followed by a short reading from the gospel. And after the gospel, we also sing another song. And when I say song, it's chants. Chants are repeated over and over and over and again. And I'll talk about that in a bit.
Okay.
And after the chant, we stay silent for a long time, 6 to 8 minutes. The idea of silence is that I used to explain to the young people, like, you sit before God like an open book, God read me, or like an open pot where you say, God fill me. But there is even more to it. Christ, the risen Christ, is praying within you. So whatever prayer that you pray with your words are very limited when you compare to Christ who is praying in you. So in silence, in one way, you are sort of allowing Christ to pray in you. And it's also a silent longing, because we all human beings long for that invisible presence, which is God. And this silent time sort of allows that longing to be a little bit more profound. And sometimes you get to listen to God, God's voice as to what He's telling you, and that touches many people's heart. After the silent time is a time of intercession. Intercessions, basically, it's for the world, for the church leaders, like we pray in the church.
Yeah.
But many other prayers are for people who are suffering, who are in prison, who are in abandoned or tortured, and all people who are suffering injustice in different parts of the world. And then they also pray for different specific people who asked for prayer support, from China, from New Zealand, from Africa, from Afghanistan, from Pakistan, wherever it is. And they pray, bring them to the prayer, regardless of religion, whatever that is. After the time of intercession, there may be sometimes they sing the Magnificat. Different depending on the season, they have different songs. And usually it ends with a prayer written by Brother Roger, who is the founder of Taize. And that's very touching. And it is prayed in different languages, French, English, German, depending upon who is present in the church. And then a couple other songs, and usually the prayer ends in half an hour. And because of its simplicity, like when you are in the prayer, you are not forced to pray. You don't have to. But everybody is encouraged to sing. But if you cannot sing, you can just follow along the tune in your heart, in your mind, whatever that you want to do. But Brother Roger always say, your desire to be in the presence of God in itself, a prayer. That's enough. You stay before God silently, even though you have no words. Christ is praying in you. Why worry? That's enough. And those kind of words really encourage young people, and many others, not only because many people, I don't know how to pray. I don't know what to pray. But you say, you don't have to pray. You just the desire itself
Yeah.
is enough.
And I know, like, when we were doing the chants and all, I'm not a big singer. I'm not gifted in that area, but just hearing it, and it was repetitive in a form of meditative kind of feel. It made you want to almost start to engage into it, even though I'm not inclined to sing. I remember at least trying my best, and others too. I noticed were too. It was really nice to.
Yeah, and that is on purpose, this because chants are usually 1 or 2 or 3 lines.
Yeah,
people can learn it very quickly, and many of those are taken either directly from the Psalms or different texts of the Bible, or even the sayings of the saints.
Yeah.
Like we sing Nadate Turbe. I don't know whether you remember that.
I do remember that one.
That is, do not worry. God alone is enough. That is Saint Teresa of Avila. Or, Jesus, your light is shining within us. Let me welcome your love, not the doubts and darkness. That is Saint Augustine.
Yeah.
So they read church fathers, and all these songs are inspired by either church fathers or the saints or the biblical text. So unknowingly, just by singing it, you are meditating it, and then eventually it produces fruit because it's word of God. And it goes deep into you, and it produces fruit.
You think you could sing one for us?
Sure.
On the spot here, because I remember you have a very nice voice and you can do it.
Sure. Maybe I can try the Jesus Your Light. Jesus, your light is shining within us. Let not my doubts and my darkness speak to me. Jesus, your light is shining within us. Let my heart always welcome your love. Jesus, your light is shining within us. Let not my doubts and my darkness speak to me. Jesus, your light is shining within us. Let my heart always welcome your love.
That's beautiful.
Beautiful.
I love that. So I was discussing this with this podcast with our Vicar General this week, and I said Father Robert Hughes, and I was bringing, because I didn't know anything about Taizé, and I always things I don't know about in the Catholic Church, which are rare, but I always run past the bosses to say, hey, listen, we're going to do a podcast on this. Is there anything I need to know about? And he goes, oh, you're going to love it. And I go, how do you know that? And he's like, well, because it's meditative, and it puts you in a good mental place to be open to spirituality. And I said, I'm not much of a chanting guy. And he goes, well, you are. You just don't realize it. He's like, well, he goes, like. There's a chant we say in Mass all the time. Jesus, remember me, which I'm not going to sing any more of because I don't want to lose any listeners. But that is a chant, and actually it's one of my favorites, and I always enjoy it when it's a part of the Mass.
Yeah, during the Lenten season there.
Yeah, exactly. And what I appreciate about that is it does actually put me in that space where I don't need to think, but I can be open to it. Now, all of my co-hosts on the podcast bedevil me because I'm a terrible prayer, and I want, like, we'll say a prayer before we start the podcast, and depending on who we have on, it can take anywhere from a minute to 5 minutes to get through the prayer, and I'm thinking, listen, we got to start this podcast soon. Can you make it quick? Whereas when it's a chanted prayer, like a Taizé prayer, it's actually very nice that it goes on for like, how long would you say a typical Taizé prayer might go? Like a chant prayer?
Usually 3 to 4 minutes, depending upon just repeating it, depending, sometimes 6 minutes. Yeah. Usually
average. Is that just Holy Spirit led? Like what you feel?
Yeah. That's pretty much it.
You've now been to a number of Taizé prayers, Kari. As someone who was an outsider and wasn't really aware of it, and certainly someone who had young people with you when you were experiencing it, did you Did you find that you were instantly open to her, or did it take a little bit of time?
Anything new for me, I always like discern to, is this going to be good for me? Do I like it? And I think for me, it doesn't take too long with anything. Then I'm like, okay, it's good. Like I take a cautious approach and then open up my heart and my mind and let the Spirit lead it. And I do remember, again, it was the chanting that drew me in, because I can't sing too well, but just hearing it, I would, like, by the second and third time, I was like, okay, I'm going to try this. And it was really good. And I think the same for some of the young adults. It was with our young adult ministry, which is 18 to 28 years old. And I remember one that particularly, like, that enjoys singing. She was in, like, plays and stuff in high school, and she enjoyed singing. She, like, helped you out with some of the chants, right. And she loved it. It was great for her too. But we have somebody here at our parish that helps you. So you brought it to the parish level.
It's Lori. Lori helps me, and Joachim also helps me with the music.
Yeah. So does he, like, arrange the chant? How is Joachim at the parish level work for you?
I share the musical notes with him. That's coming from Taize and one of the books, and he's very good. He immediately gets it, and he practices it at home. And then he has a couple of friends, and so we practiced at church before the prayer one time with the chants, and he just got it very immediately. The mood of it, and with his piano and singing, it was beautiful.
I bet. Yeah, he's talented.
Yeah.
So when you brought it on the parish level, have you only done it here at Our Lady of Peace, or have you brought it to other parishes in the area?
Mm-hmm. I have done it here several times. I have done it a couple of times in Our Lady of Mount Carmel in Glassboro, right? Mother of Mercy Parish.
Mary Mother Mercy. Okay.
Yeah, there. And I also did it in St. Peter's in Merchantville a few times. And I also did a couple other parishes. I don't remember right now.
But around our diocese, you've taken it to other places. Is it always well received?
Well, not many, I would say. And because probably people don't know what that is. But those who attended the prayer would always come back and say that it was an enriching experience. We should do this more often. More often.
I can see where there might be hesitancy because, listen, if there's one thing us Catholics are known for, is we like our thing, and that's the only thing we like, and we don't want to do anything else. But I think maybe that's why I was sort of impressed by, you were talking at the very beginning about how it seems to young people seem to gravitate to it very quickly. So I was looking online, in a rare case of doing research, and realized just how many college campuses, particularly Catholic college campuses, have Taizé Prayer groups as part of their parish. Yeah, which got me to thinking that we maybe need to introduce this to some of our campus ministers if they don't already have it going. We have good campus ministers in our 3 colleges in South Jersey, 3 universities in South Jersey. We probably should do that, because I could see that being a big hit with them, particularly since, as you've explained, it's a very approachable. It's roughly 30 minutes. It's a very approachable thing. There's nothing particularly peculiar about it. It's chanting, short reflections, a gospel prayer, and some intercessions, a little more chanting. Yep. That's a very reasonable way of doing it. And so I did go online, in addition to doing a little bit of research. I actually watched some YouTube videos on it. Okay, going back to where you all make fun of me all the time, that is the kind of thing that definitely seems like I would be more likely to gravitate to, because it seems so, to your point, it seems so welcoming, which is really nice. It's not off-putting. I mean, listen, I love, and this may come across, there are many parts of the Catholic faith that are that seem to have an undue burden to them. I mean, I love going to the Latin Mass, but I also know that I have no idea what they're talking about until the English kicks in during the Gospel or during the homily. But it's a beautiful experience. It's wonderful. I've been to high Masses. I've been to low Masses. It's something that everybody should see once in their life, but I can't say that I would do it on a regular basis. Whereas this Taizé Prayer, which it is an ecumenical, it's a non-denominational Christian ecumenical initiative, but it fits so well into the Catholic faith. I can see why that the Archbishop of Lyon would make it available to everybody like that, and why the popes have always been open to it. No doubt, probably because it does such a great job with young people.
Exactly. Pope John Paul Pope John Paul II visited Taize in 1986. And he said, everyone who passes by Taize is like someone who passes near a spring of water, who quench your thirst there. And Brother Roger, very close friend of Mother Teresa, Saint Mother Teresa also, they wrote books together. And the first time he went, I think, outside India to organize international youth meeting was in Calcutta, I think. When he does that, no, actually, the first international meeting was in outside in here, was probably in Philippines, then in Madras, in China. But he lived in Calcutta, where Mother Teresa was. But he chose to live in a slum where all the poor people are. And when he was returning after several weeks of stay, Mother Teresa just handed him over a child. Take her with you, because she was very ill and sick. There was no way, really take her with you. And then he adopted her and brought back to Taize. And, he was his foster father. And then I think Brother Roger's sister took care of her, So when I speak of that, maybe it brings to me another point. One of the things is Taizé Prayer, and people like the Taizé Prayer. But then there's a spirituality that goes with it, like a lifestyle that goes with it, which is ever since I experienced Taizé, my thirst was to share that spirituality also with people. And so what they carry with them, is the one very important thing is inner joy, inner peace, trust in God. And Brother Roger always say, God is never the cause of violence. Because we always say, God, why did you do this to me? He said, no, God is never the cause of the violence, but rather he is there to sort of help you through it. And he said, God is love. God can only love. That, and see, he portrays the even during the church, when they do the prayer service, he would stay away from any passages that speaks about violence, because he cannot comprehend God being somebody who supports violence. He just cannot, And so that's how it is. So one of them is, they say human solidarity. Another piece, in Taizé, brother, they pray 3 times a day, but there are brothers who lives in fraternities in different parts of the world. I don't know where they are exactly right now. Bangladesh, they used to be Bangladesh. In New York, they used to be sometime in Philadelphia, they used to be Brazil. And they live amongst the poorest of the poor, and then support their life, with whatever. Prayer is there, but with food, with education, whatever their need is, being one among them. And they also have something called Operation Hope, where they, take people's help to help people who are in need, like in other parts of the world. Very strong commitment to human solidarity, because Christ lives in every human being. So that's one part. Another part is as I said, the whole vocation of the community is unity among Christians. That's very reconciliation is paramount of him. So Brother Roger always say, when the brothers commit their lives of celibacy to common life, what they say is to live a life to seek to understand everything about the other person. Not to seek to be understood, but seek to understand. And always forgive, being ready for reconciliation. He said, without reconciliation, there is no future for the world. So there is reconciliation. And he always talks about living in the spirit of beatitudes, joy, simplicity, mercy. And he says, with very simple means, even with the little that you have, you can welcome other people. And then he is not saying this as an abstract idea. He lived in slums in Calcutta, like in Madras, in Africa, in different parts. And he says that the poor people seems to be more hospitable. They are ready to share what they have.
Oh, it's so true. I've witnessed that.
There is no difficulty for sharing. So
even detached from the worldly things.
Yeah. So even with the little that you have, you can share, you can welcome. He says, simplify your life, simplify your thoughts, so that you can be available for others and you can share your life. So try to live, in the spirit of Beatitudes. This is joy. We have all reasons to be joyful because Jesus said, blessed, 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 or happy are, happy are, happy are.
Yeah.
Right? Joy, and then simplicity. And mercy is, again, goes with reconciliation and stuff like that.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's so nice, just hearing all of that and knowing this can I just sitting here listening. I'm like, this makes so much sense. Now we have to take it into our own lives, and especially now we're in this season of Advent to take these ideas, even if you never experienced Taizé, but just to experience even just listening to the joy of the Beatitudes, just if we can have that mindset and living simply each day, having that mindset, that mentality that every day of our life is lived that way. I think that's really important. So I think something we failed to mention at the beginning of the podcast is, so I met you here at Our Lady of Peace Parish, but you're technically not a parishioner here. You come to daily mass here because you live in town, right?
Yes.
And, but what parish are you from?
Yes, thank you for asking that question. So I belong to an Oriental Catholic rite, which is called a Zero Malabar. And I belong to a parish in Hamilton. It's called St. Jude Syro Malabar Church now. It was the old St. Lucy's. We bought that church 2016. And then we began this community back in 1999 in Cherry Hill when Monsignor Tracy was the pastor.
Okay.
It was St. Peter Celestine at that time. Now it's Christ Our Light. And then we were there for several years. Then we moved to Christ the King, Queen of Heaven, and then Christ the King. And then we moved to Our Lady of Hope in Blackwood. We were there for several years. And then when the church was converted and stuff, then that's when we, because that was closed and then we had to find, we went to the St. John Vianney Church for a few 1 or 2 years. Then we said, we need to buy something for ourselves.
Really got bounced around there. You were and not even churches that are near each other. I mean, these are different towns all over.
Yeah.
How many in that parish?
Oh, well, we are a small parish. It's only 45 families. Very, very small community. And, we have the holy, we call it Holy Kurbana. Kurbana means offering. Holy Kurbana, and but Holy Mass same, and we have that on every day we have, but because only few people are going, and then they say in the chapel. But usually we have evening Mass on Friday and Saturday morning, and then every Sunday at 11:30, and we also have we say the Holy Mass in our own language with singing and stuff, but we also have English translation. And we are using that often also. And so we have our own Sunday. We call it Sunday School in the CCD. We call it Sunday School. So we have Sunday School program and other things. Yeah. So I belong to that parish, but I come here weekday because of going there and coming back in the morning because of the school bus and stuff. I cannot get back to work in time. So.
Yeah, you got to go with practical.
But that's a great element of the Catholic Church. You always tell people it's a universal church, and there are a number of different rites in our Catholic Church, and that's one that I think a lot of people don't probably realize. So you, for instance, that doesn't fall under this bishop. There's an extension because it's in this diocese, but it's actually a bishop out of Chicago, right?
Yes,
is your bishop. But yeah, I always get a kick out of it because I have a number of friends and a variety of different rites. And it's always nice that we're all Catholic together. We just have the rites are a little different. The churches look a little different. I remember Bishop Sullivan coming back from when that church was reconsecrated and saying how much he loved the mass and the songs, and it was just a completely different thing. So, but he came from he came from a parish in New York City that was very diverse. So he's always had a great appreciation for diversity. In his final parish, next to last parish, before he became a bishop, he had it was a Chinese Mandarin families that were coming in. So he was learning Chinese Mandarin before he got transferred out of there. So he's always had a great appreciation for that. But sir, thank you very much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
If you don't mind, I would like to just say a little prayer by
Absolutely.
Brother Roger.
Yes, please.
I pray this every day. It really touches me. So this is one of the several prayers written by Brother Roger, who is the founder of Taize. Holy Spirit, Spirit of the living God, you breathe in us on all that is inadequate and fragile. You make living water spring even from our hearts themselves, and through you, the valley of tears becomes a place of wellsprings. So, in an inner life, with neither beginning nor end, your continual presence makes new freshness break through.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you very much for joining us. Kari, thank you very much for setting this up. And to our listeners, thank you very much for joining us. And we hope you'll actually take advantage of Taizé Prayer sometime in the near future. Go ahead and seek it out.
Thank you so much, Mike, and thank you so much, Kari.
God bless.
God bless.